Hey everybody, I don't normally do this, but I was watching one of EnB's videos, the first of his answer your guys' questions about Dark Souls, and he said something that I wanted to specifically respond to because I disagree with what he said. Now it's a little unfair to disagree because, as he does say in his in that same video, most of the lore for Dark Souls, well, a lot of it at least, isn't clear. It's specifically not clear from Designed It That Way. But he's talking about how Lord Gwyn split up his soul between, well, his children and his followers, and he includes the four knights, Ornstein, Artorias, Sarian, and Go, in that group. Now, this is what I disagree with. I've talked about it in my lore series, and if anybody else has who's watched EnB's videos have watched mine, then you know what I've talked about already. But I don't believe that the four knights had Gwyn's soul, or any part of it. Now I can understand the thinking of it. If you check Ornstein's soul description, it says special beings have special souls. Lord Gwyn granted this soul to his four most trusted knights. Lord Gwyn granted this soul, not his soul, this. Now, I think that's important, not just because of minute wording, or minutia attention being paid to the wording, but the fact that Ornstein and all the other knights existed as knights able to kill dragons before Gwyn, long before Gwyn, had to split up his soul. Ornstein wouldn't have the name Dragon Slayer if he hadn't gone around, or hadn't been around, to kill the dragons back at the beginning of the game's lore. Back when, Ornstein and Gwyn and not Seath and Nito all had souls from the flame, the first flame. So that's my argument, really. They had to have had souls already to be able to battle the dragons. If they didn't have souls from the first flame, they wouldn't have been able to fight the dragons. They would have just been normal, dead, worthless humans, whatever we see in the intro, that are gathered around the flame. So I guess that only leaves the answer of what does the game mean by Lord Gwyn granting them the soul? And clearly Gwyn would be one to grab his soul from the first flame before his knights. He probably was the second person to after Nito. So I don't have all the answers, of course, but perhaps he could see specific souls in the flame. He picked out important ones to give to his knights. Or maybe he could just sense it, or maybe he told them specifically, hey, while you're in there, look for souls that aren't as strong as mine, but still pretty good, strong enough to help me fight the dragons. It's also likely, and this is obviously speculation, likely that these four knights served Gwyn in the past, before they were dead and searching for souls in the flame. Then there was another issue about Solaire's validity as Gwyn's firstborn son, and the argument that it could be Ornstein. And the main possibility for this argument, and by the way, I do have to include the part that EnB doesn't think that Ornstein is the firstborn son, but I still want to bring it up. The main argument is that there's a statue crumbled at the altar of sunlight, which you pray to join Solaire's covenant, that is actually pretty clearly a crumbled statue of Ornstein. Now, EnB brought up the fact that they may have just reused it just to have a statue there crumbled. But I think there's a more specific reason. And of course, again, this is all speculation, but Solaire probably crumbled the statue maybe as a move of immature vengeance, in that he saw that a statue of Ornstein existed outside of Anor Londo, for who knows, for whatever reason. Maybe Ornstein helped establish the parish, I don't know. But he saw the statue was there, and he destroyed it, making his start of his covenant, the beginning of his new path to dethrone his father, there where the statue had crumbled. He started by taking down the statue of his father's highest ranked knight. It's like I said, it's a little immature and perhaps silly, but it's a decent theory, in my opinion. Then, of course, is the part about Andre being the firstborn son, and how it's all in the art book that EnB translated. But as he brought up, it was specifically said that Andre's involvement in the game was reduced to almost nothing except being a blacksmith. So it is very likely that there is no firstborn son in the game, and that maybe it's supposed to be Solaire, maybe not. I could honestly go on for hours and hours arguing with someone about who's the firstborn son and who's not, but it's basically been covered. I believe it to be Solaire because they stopped it from being Andre, and instead of making it an obvious thing in Andre, they made it a much less obvious thing in Solaire. That also then brings me to the part about the different enemies being different races. And to be pretty clear, I don't believe almost any of the enemies you fight, maybe none of them, are actually human. Well, I should say that just applies for the bosses. There's plenty of enemies, especially in the forest, that are actually human. But all the bosses, at the very least, are either demons, monsters, or gods. Ornstein and Smough specifically are gods. They have souls from the flame and are therefore not humans. They are supposed to be specifically another race, that of gods. Now, gods are just those who have received souls from the flame, as your own character, the pygmy, has. Therefore, the reason Ornstein and Smough are bigger, and why they even get bigger after they've killed one another, is because they are gods. Now, in their specific case, they absorb the other's power, and that's why they get bigger. But even before that happens, they are both much bigger than the player, and that is because they have souls from the first flame. They are gods. And since we're talking about it, let's address the issue of Guinevere's size as well. There's the argument that Gwyndolin is human size, and Gwyn himself only seems slightly bigger than the player. Meanwhile, Guinevere is, the size of a building. Gwyndolин's size is probably due to the same reason he's messed up, for lack of a better word. He's probably the offspring of a normal human or something magical that made him small in the first place. I believe Gwyn's size is due to his diminishing power, his greatly diminishing power. He's nearly dead by the time we fight him. So he's almost a regular human size back to what he started at before he got the first flame, or the soul from the first flame. Meanwhile, Guinevere's size in her chamber, I believe, is a farce as well. I believe that is all Gwyndolин's doing. I do believe she is bigger, and for proof of this, if you look at her statue inside the cathedral in Anorlando, the giant room before the painting of Aramaeus, you will see that there's a statue of her and two silver knights. And the silver knights come about halfway to her height. Meanwhile, she looks all normally proportionate in her statue, and yet she is twice the size of the knights. As we fight the knights in Anorlando, they are about our size, only a little bit bigger, the same as Ornstein is. Meaning they are also all gods. Well, they're at least beefed up by having souls. Probably Gwyn's soul in their case, not Ornstein's, the knights. So meanwhile, Guinevere obviously has a much bigger chunk of soul, and her size in her chamber is Gwyndolин's magic. We know her appearance is all a falsity anyway.